What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Hello and welcome to the 4 types of video storytelling, but also I'm going to talk about how you can relate this to storytelling in your classroom. You're thinking, well, I'm never going to make a video. You should be recording the storytelling you're making in your classroom. So I want to relate these two and show you how you can utilize it not just in your classroom, but also via video. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, if you will. My name is Tyler, and I'm a dean of NLC College, and I've been an administrator, teacher, all that stuff, and my main thing is I want you to learn and have fun. So let's get started. Okay, so I want to talk about the 4 types of storytelling that you can utilize in your classroom or for videos for your students to use for the classroom. I think over the past year, actually it's been over the past decade, as video has grown online because of the increase of cell phones and the accessibility of online platforms like YouTube, Vimeo, even Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat, videos incorporated across the internet. One of the original storytelling mediums for the internet was using blogs, written posts where people could read. I don't know if you guys remember, in the chat, let me know what was your favorite blog that you read. I used to have this group of people that I read, and one of them was John Acuff was a great writer that I liked, Knox McCoy, David Robbins, tons of those dudes. I used to read them, and every day, literally I would make it a point to read that every day. Well, once creating video using phones and then making it to where it can stream live on your phone became easier and more prevalent, you're able to create the video storytelling, and then I think one of the big trends we're going to see in the internet now is audio storytelling, podcasts, Spotify. They've invested hundreds of millions of dollars into people who have popular podcasts and trying to get them on their platform so that people transition to Spotify for all of their long form audio content needs. And one of the cool things about audio content is that it allows the listener to get to know the person as an actual person, not just I'm delivering a quick piece of information. I'm not just teaching you slope-intercept form on the internet. You're getting to listen to me talk for 45 minutes about my thoughts on, insert topic here. And so it's a chance for them to get to know them. Now, as educators, if you're a teacher, you know this because you're getting the chance to be. It's essentially our classrooms are, 45, if you're high school or junior high school level, it's 45-minute podcasts where you're getting the chance to teach your students something, but there's an interaction. They're getting to listen to you talk. And so I think there's certain ways we can present this information to help the storytelling in our classroom and tell our story, okay? So let's get started. We're gonna kick it off. I'm gonna give you a few different ideas for this. And keep in mind, there's audio, there's video, there's written, where they're reading. You can utilize this throughout all of those, but then also when you're standing in front of your class talking. So let's talk about the first type of storytelling technique, and I call this the Nicestat Model. Casey Neistat is a YouTuber. He's been a filmmaker for years. He had viral videos before YouTube was even a thing. Literally you had to, I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in the day, if you wanted a video to go viral, it actually cost you money. Now kids are like, I want to be a millionaire. I'm going to get a video go viral. Now it's you have to, or back then, in the early 2000s, if you wanted to put a video on the internet, you had to pay a website to host your video. And then if it got popular, it's going to cost you more money because people are piling into that website and it's going to crash the server. So you're paying more money for that. So back then he had a couple videos go viral. Then he had a small show on, I say a small show, they did one season. I meant short. It was popular, but it was called the Nicestat Brothers. And then after that, he's doing some film stuff and he started leaning into YouTube. And has anybody ever heard of the storytelling format of a vlog? We all remember blog, we just talked about it. It's the written, written forms of stories. And then they had vlog, it's a video log. It's almost like a video diary, if you will. Well, back in the day, and I used to do these, I would do vlogs, and I did 3 or 4 of them, and they were super boring to even me. And it's my life. And it was just a highlight reel of my day. Well, what Casey Neistat did was he found a creative way to tell those stories in a way that people would be engaged. And he made a video recording pieces of his day every day for almost 2 years straight. I know, that's a ton of work. In the chat, let me know have you ever watched a vlogger? Let me know in the chat what vlogger you have watched, and if they resonated with you, whatever. You could not like them anymore at all. Just tell me in the chat a vlogger you liked. I watched every single one of those episodes. I liked Casey Neistat before he started the vlog, and then I watched it every day. He is a great storyteller, and he's talked before about his template for telling a story, and I think it's super unique, not only for video, but for how we tell the story of a day in our classroom. And so let's talk about vlogs for a second, and then we're gonna lean into it. So a lot of times my class, when I was teaching, I would just get up and I would teach the first aspect of multi-step equations. Here's a single step equation. Here's a two-step equation. Here's a multi-step equation. Here's one with distribution, and then here's a critical thinking word problem. And that was my day. It was just like a highlight reel of all the things I wanted to do for the day. Students really didn't see the picture of why they had to learn it. They just knew that they were forced to sit in that class, or they'd get called for truancy. And so they would, come in and have to learn because I'm teaching them that. What Casey did, if we take that story of a traditional vlogger where there's, hitting the high points of their day and recording it like we sometimes hit the high points of what we have to teach, and we throw it out there. What he did was he turned it into a story. He turned it into a succinct movie. A good way to think of this is if you're thinking of like episodes of a TV show, think of like The Office. Each episode of The Office is not just like a highlight reel of what happened that day. Each episode has a story they're telling within that episode. You could turn on, what it used to be Netflix. Now I guess Peacock is the streaming platform they're on now. You could turn that on, go to any episode, and in that episode there's going to be a story. And at the end of that episode, unless it's like a to be continued, the end of that episode, it's going to conclude that story. And so that's the thought as you're creating content for your class. Think of the story you want to tell for your class, for your lesson, whether it's for the full year or for the day or for the piece of that lesson. Let's think of how we can apply this storytelling technique to that. So let's take a look at the Nicestat model. Okay, so there's 3 basic points to the Nicestat model. I call it the Casey model. Casey model, Nicestat model, call it whatever you want. 3 basic points. You have the setup, then you have the conflict, then you have the resolution. In every video you're creating, in every lesson you're teaching, in every day you have your students, there needs to be a setup, there needs to be an addressing of the conflict, and then you need to have the resolution. Okay, so in movies or in life, this is the setup. I'm gonna film my day. I'm headed to work. Okay, that's the setup. You now have context for where I am. When I'm working on my dissertation, which is talking about how learners engage with online videos. And I think this not only applies to video, it applies to life in general. There are 2 main reasons that people stop watching a video online, an educational video online. There's 2 main reasons a student will stop watching a video online, or they'll check out of a lesson of someone trying to teach them. 2 reasons they'll quit. 1, they're confused about what's happening, and 2, they don't see how it applies to them. Okay, they're confused about what's happening, or they don't see how it applies to them. What the setup does is it takes away the confusion. When you set up, that is like essentially telling your class your learning objectives for the day. In a video, that would be you starting the video with, "Hey, what's up? My name's Tyler from Tarver Academy. I'm here and I want to teach you how to, tell a story." That is the beginning. That is the start. If you're rolling through social media and a video starts playing, if you don't know what's happening, you're probably not going to keep watching unless you know the person on there and then you're willing to stick it out. But most of the time, if you're scrolling, think of the last time you scrolled on social media and you got to a video and you're like, I am not sure what's happening in this moment. Well, that's because it's not been laid out for you. Fun fact. If you're using social media, one of the best ways to give the setup, if you don't in the video, is do that in the caption. Tell them in the caption, this is what's happening, this is where we are, this is the moment you're watching of this story. So, setup. You start with the setup. I'm headed to work. Then you have the conflict. What is the conflict for your class? What is the conflict for what you're trying to learn? If I'm trying to teach, if I'm teaching, a high school history class, and I want to talk about the conflict of the difference between a federal bank and what was it with oh my goodness, I should have done this with history. I'm leaning into this because I always use Alexander Hamilton as an example because of the play. But let's say it's George Washington and he is not running for a 3rd term. Okay, so you're trying to teach this to your students. Even within that, that's like just a piece of a lesson. The setup: you've got a leader that has been in office for 2 terms and you just started a country, you don't know, necessarily have a rule for them to get out of office. And so it's like, okay, so what does that look like? That is a setup. The conflict is, we don't know when he stops. I think I remember somebody telling me there were people that wanted him to remain president. Like, they threw out the terms like king. They want to essentially set up what they were doing before. They wanted to set up a new country, and they're trying to figure out, what does this look like with our leader? And so that's the conflict. What do we do next? What is going to happen? And the resolution is that he stops being president. He stops being president at after 2 terms, and that sets the template for every president after that, except for FDR. And so that's the resolution. So in the example on the screen, it is setup, I'm headed to work; conflict, I can't find my keys; resolution, I found my keys. So when you're teaching a lesson, it's the thing you want to keep in mind is, what am I setting up? Am I explaining to my students exactly what we're learning today? And while we're learning it, giving that, erasing the confusion, the conflict, hey, we learned about blank yesterday. We need to fill in the gaps and see where we go from there. That's the conflict. How do we solve this? How do we resolve this? And then the resolution, we actually resolve. We learn how to do that problem. We learn how to link, those trade routes on, the aspect of history we're learning. So setup, conflict, resolution. When you're creating a video, when you're writing a story, whenever you are doing a podcast, whenever you're teaching a class, setup, conflict, resolution. If you jot down those 3 bullet points, you're going to have a lot more people that are connected to your story longer term. Okay, here's an example of what that could look like if you're creating a video for your class. So you could have a preview clip. Okay, so that's like a little glance at what you're going to do. You're setting it up. You have the intro, which is just kind of, you using marketing to set your brand. You have the content, so you're teaching them or you're showing them what it is. Outro, and then you just kind of joke around and leave them happy, okay? So you make sure that it ends with your resolution. You don't want to hang out after the resolution. That's usually whenever you're teaching. After you get done teaching the last aspect, you've resolved how to solve those problems, or, learning whatever it is that you're trying to learn for the day. You've resolved it. You've taught them how to do it, and then you move on to homework or trial and error of whatever it is. So that's one form of storytelling. The next one I want to show you is called the Jinga Model. And this is a fun way to teach a class. If you want to keep students engaged, whether it's in person or via video, if you want to keep them engaged, you want to put something to where they have to pay attention so they know what's happening. So I'm trying to think of a good, Tarantino does this, Christopher Nolan does this. A lot of times, if I'm thinking of YouTubers, there were a lot of YouTubers that got popular because they're using this Jinga model. And so what you're doing is you're presenting something at the beginning of your story, beginning of your video, beginning of class. It's almost like an open-ended question, there's, this conflict in this country, and, this is at stake. And then bam, you go back to the beginning of the story and you start doing the story, and it leads into the answer of what you started at the beginning. So what this looks like on most videos. So if you're watching a YouTube video and you see, it turns on and there's people and they're standing on a cliff and there's water underneath, and there's one person that runs and it looks like they're about to do a backflip, and then it cuts to an intro. And then they come in to the video and the person's like, hey, today we're going to go out to the cliffs. We're going to jump off the cliffs, blah, blah, blah. I might try a backflip. I've never done a backflip before, and then we're going to see what happens. And then the whole episode leads up to that piece that you almost saw at the beginning, to where that resolves, that resolution, the end of it is there. It's like a game of Jenga. Have you ever played Jenga? Jenga, where you push the little blocks and you try to see if it's going to fall over. This is what you're doing in that video. The stakes get higher and higher because you don't know how it's going to end. You saw that clip at the beginning and you're like, oh my goodness, the stakes are rising. It's slowly going up and your heart starts beating. It's like every episode of those suspense TV shows or, a suspenseful movie. It's like something's going to happen and it's slowly building, and it's like you have to watch the end because you want to see how it's resolved. So you're trying to see the end of that. So that's the Jinga model, and it's super popular among a lot of YouTubers. Here's a little graphic to help you get a gander at that. You have your intro clip, which kind of grabs your audience. They call that, there's 3 parts of a video. It's the nose, the body, and the tail. If you can keep people for the nose, which is the first 10% of the video, then you have a lot better chance of keeping them throughout the entire video. So you want to catch their attention with the nose of the video. You roll that into it, builds towards the conclusion of the intro clip, because you cut the intro clip before it actually resolved it. You're leading into it, and then bam, conclusion, and you do the outro. So that is that's a pretty interesting way. It's got to be something. It's almost like leaving on a cliffhanger. Did y'all ever watch the show Lost? In the chat, did you ever watch the show Lost? And if you did, who is your favorite character on Lost? I was a big. Who was my favorite character? I mean, Sawyer. It's got to be Sawyer, right? Sawyer's the best one, isn't he? So in the chat, if you ever watch Lost, let me know. And then who was your favorite character? One of the things that Lost did to keep people connected to the show is they always ended on a cliffhanger. So here it's like you're taking that show episode and you're putting the cliffhanger at the beginning. That way you can keep them throughout the whole video. Whereas in Lost, at the end of each episode, they're doing a cliffhanger at the end of the episode to keep you until next week when they do another one. So that is a good way to keep your class. You know, at the end of class, you could do like something to where you're, you know, saying, hey, tomorrow we're leading into this, or tomorrow we're gonna do this, or here's a question and we're gonna answer that tomorrow. You might be surprised how many students go out of their way to find out, you know, the answer to that question before you actually show them. So if you can get their attention, I remember I did this with The Crucible. Did y'all ever have to read The Crucible in school? I remember one time I got kicked out of class because in my English class we're reading The Crucible and I wanted to know what happened so bad. I read it in my science class, got kicked out of class. Hey, when a story is compelling and you build towards that suspense, people want to see the ending. They want to see the resolution. If you can keep them long enough to where they're invested, they're going to find the answer to that, okay? Now, this is the third one, and this is one of mine. Like, if I was going to do one storytelling technique, if this whole talk was going to be focused on one thing, I would have focused on this. Have you guys ever read StoryBrand? Anybody know? Donald Miller, he was a writer, wrote books like Blue Like Jazz and a couple others, and then he got into marketing. And I'll be honest, he's kind of killing the marketing game, like doing great. That's a good term. He's doing great in the marketing game. And if I could summarize his book, StoryBrand, into one concept that we can utilize as educators, and I think it's this is the most important thing I'm talking about today. Yes, we can talk about techniques for engaging audiences through video or in person, but if I'm talking about a way that you lead your class, the story you tell of your class, this is the most important aspect. Who is the hero in Star Wars? Who's the hero in the first A New Hope, the first Star Wars movie? Yoda's not in there, so don't use this, okay? Who's the hero in A New Hope? Luke Skywalker, correct? Is he the best one in the movie? Absolutely not. Of the good guys, he's not even the best one. Han Solo's a better pilot. You've got, Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is better at the Force. It's like, why isn't Obi-Wan Kenobi just like, hey, we need to blow up the Death Star? He gets in a plane and he does it. He knows the Force. Why are you trying to use a dude who's never used the Force to go, shoot that little, laser beam down the middle of the Death Star? It's because Luke Skywalker is the hero. He is the person we're watching and we're following and we're seeing develop from this like 19-year-old kid out on his, uncle's farm to being the one that blew up the Death Star and saved the day. His guide in that story was Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's the one, use the Force, Luke. He's the one telling him what to do, and Luke is trusting him and using his guidance to save the day. Think of any movie, any hero movie. Another one I like to use is Rudy. Y'all remember Rudy? What's your favorite sports movie? Tell me in the chat, what is your favorite sports movie? Rudy is one of my favorite ones. It's about that guy who went to Notre Dame. It's got Sean Astin. He played Sam in Lord of the Rings. And he is trying to play football at Notre Dame. And so he's going there. He's our hero. We're following his story. But he would not have succeeded had it not been for that. Remember the wise janitor who guided him, employed him, and then helped him get to the spot he was. And he's like standing there in the hallway, like slow clapping him whenever he actually got to play for Notre Dame. He's the guide in that story. Whenever Donald Miller's talking about this in StoryBrand, he's talking about it with companies. Too often, companies set themselves up as the hero. We're the hero. We're going to solve all your problems. We're going to save the day. All you got to do is give us $9.99. Okay, like for instance, I do the Tarver Academy Honor Roll. It's where people can, pay once a year to get access to a bunch of trainings and weekly emails where I give them templates, resources, stuff like that. Even in the way I just explained that, it made it sound like I was the hero in your story. I'm going to give you all these resources. It's going to help you save the day. Whenever we're talking about businesses or companies, we don't want them to be the hero. We're not connected to the story of them being the hero. We want to be the hero. We want them to be the guide. So whenever I'm talking about, Tarver Academy Honor Roll, hey, what's up? TarverAcademy.com/honor roll. I'm sorry. Why am I the way that I am? I'm so sorry. Whenever I'm talking about that honor roll, like email list, okay? What I want to talk about is I want to help you in your classroom. I want to help you be the hero in your classroom. I want to help you be the best teacher you can be. I want to give you the resources to where you can be the best teacher possible for your students. I want to save you time so you can leave at 3:30 and go hang out with your family and not worry about what you have to do and create a template for 2 hours. I want to give you that template so that you can go out and be better. See, it's the same thing, but in how we talk about it, you feel a different way, where it's like, hey, I'm going to save the day. I'm going to send you all these resources. Once a week, you'll get all these, trainings. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. Just do what I'm telling you to do. You're just an audience member in that story. But if I word it like this, hey, these weekly emails, they're going to give you time back to where you can dedicate your time to getting to know your students and connect with your students so that you can build that rapport to make your classroom even better. When you buy the Baller Teacher Playbook, whenever you buy this book's going to give you some ideas to where you can connect with your students and make true change in the culture of your classroom. In the way you explain it, you make your audience, you make the students in your class, you make them the hero. So whenever we're relating this to, teaching our class, when we're teaching our class, we do not need to be the expert. We do not need to be the ones that know everything, the ones that have all the knowledge. I'm the expert. Everybody look at me. Turn it around. Flip it. You are the guide, okay? We as educators, we don't need to be the experts because that's unattainable. Students are like, I'm never going to be the expert at math. They think they're not good enough. And so they're like, well, I'm bad at math, or I'm bad at English. I'm bad at science. I'm bad at art. You're always getting better, and all I'm doing is guiding you in your process to get better at this subject. It's a whole mindset shift that can make a huge difference in your classroom. Whenever you're teaching students, make them the hero. You be the guide. You are helping them. We as educators, if our only role as the hero of the class is presenting information, they can just go on YouTube or Google whatever it is, have somebody else teach them. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of teachers out there. There's way better teachers than me on YouTube. And my students could go out there and search those videos and watch those videos. They don't need me, okay? I'm no longer the hero. They found a new hero. But what makes the difference in your classroom is whenever you take on the role of guide. You facilitate the social process of learning. You're the one helping your students, getting to know them, build rapport, see how they learn, answering their questions, asking them good questions to make them think. You're making them the hero in the story. You're making them the hero in the story. So whenever you are, I'm sorry, somebody keeps calling me. This is like, if you want to screenshot this, you can. This is like the entire full StoryBrand script. If you want, you can Google it, or I think I have it on my website if you want to check it out, tarveracademy.com. I'll give you this. But it's the script you follow for the entire telling of your story. If you want to really get into the bullet points and the minutia of it, this is the story to follow. And again, the StoryBrand book, it's fantastic. I think I probably have a link on my website for it, for getting that. You should. And this is the template you can get online where you can fill it out, where you find out what your audience wants and you can help guide them to be the hero. You now take on the role of that guide in their story, to them to learn something, to become the expert in something, to pass their class, to get out of high school, to get out of college, whatever it is, you can become the facilitator to help them get the skills they need to be as successful as possible. Okay? Sweet. All right, next one, the TikTok model. It's the last one, the last of the storytelling types. And this is one that is really taking off on YouTube, TikTok, all of them. Whenever you think of social media, okay? Whenever you think, and I use social media because that's all over, like our students spend more time on social media than they are like hanging out with their friends after school. Like they are all over social media. Check their screen time. Check your screen time right now and see if you're actually like, how much time you're spending on social media. It's now real life. It's not online. It's real life because we spend more time there than we do a lot of times in real life. So Whenever we talk about that, we look at trends in social media because those are trends we're seeing in real life, and it's going to be trends that leak into our classroom. Whenever you are too produced in what you're presenting and the story you're telling and how you're leading your class, your students are going to have a disconnect with what you're trying to tell them. They're going to disconnect from you because they feel like it's inaccessible. The TikTok model, I call this because TikTok it's the one that's growing the fastest right now. And I think the reason it's growing that fast is because it is more authentic, okay? There's 3 levels to this. When you're teaching something and when you're making a video, these are the 3 levels of how you can tell your story or how you can teach your students what you want to teach them, okay? You want everything that you do to be shrouded in authenticity. So when you're teaching your students, you need to tell them about you. You need to tell them about your personality. You need to ask them about them and their personality. You want to be real in it. I've made high produced videos on the internet that nobody cares to watch. And then I'll make a 1-minute TikTok where I'm just like filming it at a terrible angle with like my neck showing. I'm like, hey guys, what's up? And I'll tell them something. And if I'm real and authentic and I say something that connects with them, then it's gonna go so much further with my audience than if I just, hey, here's a highly produced video I shot on an A6400 Sony camera, with great lighting, blah, blah, blah. It's all about being authentic in what you're doing. It's okay to make mistakes. If you show that you can make mistakes in the classroom or in a video, your students are gonna feel like they have the permission to make mistakes. Don't edit out all of the mistakes. There's been earlier in this video, I don't know if you noticed, my kid, look, there's a phone call right now. I'm getting phone calls during the video. I've got my kid trying to make noises and crawl under my desk and coughing during this video. I don't know if you saw me. I threw a chapstick at him while he was sitting there like singing some song in my office. I'm like, I'm recording. So I chunked a chapstick at him to try to get him to stop singing. This is real. Like, I'm telling you what's real. I'm not like gonna edit that out because that's authentic. That's real. It's what happened. It might have gotten your attention. You're like, what is going on in there? Why is he distracted? Why is he reaching across his desk and then doing this? It's because I'm chunking a chapstick at my kid. Okay, we've all been there. Welcome to Zoom calls, okay? Authenticity is going to go much further in me just telling you that story. Me standing up in front of my class and telling them about a time when I was in high school and I made a mistake. You can see your students like leaning in because they care about what you're saying. They're all in on the conversation because they're connected to your authenticity in that moment. So when you're planning a lesson, how does this look for a lesson or a video? You want to have a loose script for what you want to address. You got to be okay to get off track every now and then, to chase rabbits, as they say. You got to be okay with that. But then you always want to tie that into your key point. So it's like when you're bullet pointing your lesson, you want to leave space. You don't want to script it. Nobody wants to script a whole lesson. Your favorite talks, your favorite keynotes that you watch, they're not somebody that just reads a script the entire time. Once I went to an education convention and I saw he was a musician who was speaking at the education convention. The entire speech, he's reading off the teleprompters behind us. And I was like, I don't know if I'm resonating with this because it feels like he's reading it. It's because he was. The best speakers are the ones that are speaking from their heart. They're willing to follow trails and they're based on their audience and what they're into. So you lean into the parts of your key points in your story and what you want to teach, and you're willing to get off topic a little bit or hear stories from students that connect to that. Now, I call this the buoy model. I heard it from my friend Knox. He was talking about it with his podcast. And this is how you can teach your class. You have the key things that you want to learn that day. And it's like buoys in the water and you're trying to swim across a lake. Whenever I swim and I go under and I start just going after it, I look up and I've kind of like veered off, like swim to the side, and then I have to like go back towards that next buoy so I can get a break. That's what you're doing. You have your key points. You're willing for things to get off topic, or you have to modify and adjust. You have to adjust to a student's question, or you have to lean into something that maybe they should have learned to lead up to what you want to learn next. And then you always redirect to the next buoy. So it's like, we'll start swimming. We might go straight to the buoy. We might go a little off track, and then we might come back to the buoy. We want to hit our high points, but we're willing to get off topic. Do not feel like you have to stick directly to the script of what you have planned for class. It's okay as long as you're hitting your key points and you're willing to improv a little bit with your teaching and what's happening. It's going to add so much more, it's going to be so much more personal for you and your students. Okay, guys. So those are the 4 key ways of telling a story. You've got the Nicestat model where you have a setup, conflict resolution. You've got the Jinga model where you have it building in anticipation. You have cliffhangers either at the beginning or maybe at the end to lead into the next episode. So it's the Jinga model, builds in intensity. You've got the story brand model where you are the guide and your students or your audience are the hero and you are guiding them in what they want to learn or complete or do. And then the fourth one is the TikTok model where you're being authentic. You have key points, you're willing to improv and get off topic, but you're always going to come back to your key points. Okay, thank you guys for checking this out and learning with me today. If you want, tarveracademy.com. I'm Tyler Tarver on anything as far as social media goes. And if you want, straight up, if you want to help me guide you in your class, save you time because I know you're a busy teacher and you want to join our Netflix for Teachers that helps teachers grow and gives them resources every week and along with a library of stuff you can watch and learn at any time to get better in your classroom, that's tarveracademy.com/honor roll. We all been on the honor roll. You want to be on the honor roll for the rest of your life? That's what's up. And get your school to pay for it. That's what's up. Get a refund. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching. Thank you for learning with me today. And I hope you have an amazing, amazing day.